This is unacceptable, and you know it. I won't stand for this.
You will do exactly as I say. Move!
It was supposed to be nothing more than a typical afternoon in the quiet, sunlit neighborhood where Kendra Phillips, the CEO, lived. A place where the air always smelled of luxury and comfort was present, and where birds chirped in and out. The sun shone through her driveway, and the world appeared all-consuming. Perfection can lapse in a split second. As Kendra left her sleek black car, her heels pressed against the marble steps of her impressive estate. She was on the phone with her assistant, hurried to pick up an unfinished package when she heard rustling behind her. A rough, callous hand covered her mouth, telling her that it was Ethan Ward, the janitor working in her corporate building. His blue attire was strewn with dust and panic. His typically delicate eyes were pierced with fear. "Don't say anything," he whispered, his voice trembling. He begged for mercy. "Avoid going in. They're waiting for you." The world ceased to exist. Her phone slipped from her hand and shattered on the stone steps. For a brief moment, she tried to scream and push him away, but something in his eyes kept her frozen. He had seen something that was unsurprising or dangerous before, and it was clear that he didn't see anything like that. Be sincere by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to Bright Hearts if you believe in the power of kindness, courage, or second chances. Kendra's heart raced as she leaned towards the oak doors of her residence. The golden handles were shining. The faint sound from her security depositor trickled down. Nevertheless, Ethan appeared to shake, as his hands were trembling with excitement. "What's up?" she muttered. But Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he led her down the hallway, his unclean uniform slapping against her white dress. Kendra saw the front of her house through the leaves as they crouched behind the hedge that bordered her property. They also noticed a black SUV parked too close to her gate. The tinted windows were illuminating the night sky, effectively obscuring anyone who might have been inside. Ethan referenced it. "They arrived right after our driver had left," he said. "The mention of your address gave me the impression that they were taking what was theirs, but I didn't realize it until I came here." Kendra's thoughts were a blur. "Did you go after them?" She muttered. "You may have been killed." Ethan averted his gaze. "It's possible, but I won't allow them to hurt anyone else." His words caused her chest to tighten, and his voice echoed with something that indicated a wound beyond fear. They remained quiet for a few seconds, observing as one of the SUV doors shattered. A man dressed in black emerged, carrying an object made of metal that caught the sun's eye. Dot. Kendra tied the knot. Ethan calmly asked, "Stay with me, they don't even know I'm here." It was a surreal experience. The man she barely knew, the janitor who patrolled her office floors and greeted her with a friendly smile, seemed to be willing to risk his life to protect her. Her thoughts turned back to the times she had passed him without knowing his name. She couldn't help but notice the tiredness in his eyes and sad grin. The men were outside her home and appeared to be for hours. Ethan reached for an old flip phone and sent a brief message. "I called police before I arrived," he said. Kendra looked at him, her eyes wide. "You don't even know me." He breathed deeply, and his eyes were watering with emotion. "It's a mistake I made, and I'll never repeat it." Her heart raced, but one of the men kicked her door open before she could answer. The noise wafted across the street. Kendra's heart raced to a halt. Ethan was visibly shaken. "Shut up," he whispered. "They'll panic if you come near them," she murmured. "What are you doing? You can't enter the room." However, Ethan was already moving, silent, focused, and fearless. The next few minutes were characterized by the echoes of footsteps, shouts, a collision, then gunfire. Kendra's body trembled with fear as she waited for him to come out. She had no desire for the money, house, or title, only that one man who had put his life on the line. Upon seeing him, she proceeded to walk over to his door, where Ethan's uniform was torn and blood splattered on his arm. He was surrounded by sirens in the distance. By the time the police arrived, the intruders had been subdued, with one of them being unconscious and the other stuck on the ground. Ethan was struggling to restrain him, and Kendra rushed to his side. "You saved me," she said softly. T's face flickered with a faint smile. "I think I had some fight left." Kendra waited for paramedics to arrive at the hospital, walking through the sterile white corridors. The janitor, who had never been seen before, had recently put her life on the line for her own safety. As she sat in the midst of guilt and silence, she realized how vulnerable she had become to the struggles of others. When Ethan woke up, His first words were soft and self-conscious. She nodded her head in frustration. She said, "You didn't scare me. You opened my eyes." Over the next few weeks, Kendra came to see him often. She learned that Ethan was a single father who had given birth to Noah, an 8-year-old boy, and lived in squats to pay for his son's medical bills. Kendra was a former firefighter who had to contend with an injury, but he knew how to stay composed when faced with danger. He couldn't leave the scene. Ethan's return to work was met with a standing ovation from the entire company, much to her amazement. Kendra, who had just returned from an ATA company meeting, stood with him beside her employees and expressed her surprise. "My life was saved by this man," she said with a shiver in her spine. "He's not just an employee, he'll be there for me to cheer for. He's going to be in charge of our new community safety program that aims to safeguard and assist the families of all employees at our organization." The crowd roared with applause. Ethan looked disbelieving. "You didn't have to do this," he said. Kendra said, "You did what nobody would have done. You saw me not as a chief executive, but as someone who desperately needs help. It's time the world saw you again." Kendra and Ethan's relationship grew stronger over time. It wasn't a romantic love affair. It was something pure, reverenceful, grateful, and solace-inducing. She encountered Noah, the empathetic boy who loved his father. As Ethan slowly regained the confidence that had been taken from him, her heart began to change as well. The walls she had built as a strong community began crumbling and were replaced by something more authentic. She would sometimes find herself sitting on her porch and watching the sunrise. The same porch on which her life had come to an end was where she would remember the day with a smile on her face, not with fear, but with gratitude, thanks to the reminder from the world that heroes do not wear suits or carry titles and instead have hearts filled with memories. If you've been touched by this story, please share it by liking, commenting, and sharing it. Be sure to subscribe to Bright Hearts for more heartwarming stories of kindness and redemption.